Chapter 3, we talk about percents. So section 1 covers actual calculating the percentages. You won't have any homework on this section, but just look through it to make sure that you understand how it works. So that and most of our business computations involve percentages such as interest and increases and decreases and things like that. So you want to understand those percentages. So if you have like 7% and you want to express that as a decimal, you're going to move the decimal place over to the left 2 spots and drop the percentage sign. If you solve a problem and it's asking for the percent and say your answer is 0.2, but they want that expressed as a percentage, you move the decimal place over to the right 2 spots and add the percentage sign. A lot of calculators will do that, not that last step, but that first step for you. Like if you push in 7 and push the percent button, it will show you it as a decimal, but just make sure you're comfortable with those. Then sections 2, 3, and 4 all deal with this part equals base times rate formula. So the part is any calculated number. The base is normally like the whole pot, or the whole, like say it's a pie. The whole pie is the base. A piece of that pie is the part. And then the rate is saying, well, how big of a percent of that pie is the part. So again, we're not necessarily obviously dealing with pies. We'll deal with business scenarios. So I give you some examples, like say you have sales and you're being charged sales tax. Well, the sale amount is the base, and then the sales tax percent is the rate. And then you multiply that to figure out how much the sales tax is, and it's just a part of that total. Say you're making $20,000 a year and they give you a 10% raise. That $20,000 a year is last year's pay. That would be your base. The 10% raise is the rate, and then you multiply those to say, okay, hey, I'm going to get a $2,000 raise. So that's kind of some examples of how those would work. I always just leave it set up like part equals base times rate, no matter what I'm looking for. So say they give me the part. So the example is I've got $6.25 in sales tax, and my rate is 6.25%. What was my sale amount? So then I'm going to back into what that base is. So I'm going to set it up. My $6.25 equals my base times 0.0625, which again is 6.25%. That one's easy. You probably can do that math in your head. The base or the sale amount must be $100. Or if they say you received a raise of $1,500, your last year's salary was $18,000, what is your percent of the raise? So again, we know what the part is, the $1,500. We know the base salary is $18,000. We don't know the percent. So then we're going to divide both sides by that 18,000, and you would get 0.0833. And again, that's a decimal, but we want to express that as a percent. So it's 8.3%. The final section, section 5, is the hardest one, and it's because students shortcut it. So I'm asking that you don't shortcut it. So what you got to do is read it carefully. So there'll either be increases or decreases. So what you'll have is 100% of last year's, and then it's either going to increase. So you'll have a percent that's going to be added to the 100%, or it's going to decrease and you'll have a percent that's subtracted. So if you have last year you made $20,000 and you get that 10% raise, and you want to calculate what your new salary is, it's going to be the 100% plus the 10% times that base will give you your new salary. What gets complicated, though, I will warn you, is in the homework, they will tell you your new salary is $22,000, and you got a 10% raise. What was your salary last year? And again, this one you might be able to kind of compute that out just logically because the numbers are easy, but they won't always be easy. So then you want to put it into the formula to say, okay, my part is 22,000, and that's equal to my base times 110% or 1.1. And then you'll divide both sides by that 1.1 and you'll get the 20. What students do is they use their calculator and they just subtract 10%. And that's, that if you have the new number, and that it gets you close, but it doesn't get you correct. So be careful not to just shortcut it on your calculator. Same thing with the decrease. So here we have sales last year were 80,000, but then they decreased 8%. So that means this year's sales will be 100% of last year's minus 8% or 92%. So then the amount is 73,600. But again, in the homework, they can give you the 73,600 and tell you it was an 8% decrease, and you have to back into what the sales were last year. So I always just set up the formulas like this and then solve for what I'm looking for. And that is it for chapter 3.